In a world powered by machines and algorithms, there exists an engineer far older and far smaller than us. A single bee, barely a gram of life, yet it carries the weight of our planet's survival. Its wings shouldn't lift its body, yet it flies with perfect control. Its hive builds flawless hexagons, a geometry so efficient even NASA studied it for spacecraft design. But right now, in 2026, we are facing a crisis. Modern medicine is hitting a wall. Antibiotic-resistant superbugs are winning the war in our hospitals. And yet, in high-tech labs across the UK and USA, doctors are turning away from synthetic drugs and looking back at a 400-year-old bioweapon, honey. Archaeologists have uncovered honey sealed for over 3,000 years, still golden, still edible. It is the only food that never expires. But here's the part that defies explanation. Long before flight science, long before microbiology, an ancient book described the bees' behavior, how they build, how they live, even the internal chemistry of their bellies, with forensic detail. On this channel, we've tracked the shadows of lost civilizations, the sunken treasures of Qarun, and the terrifying prophecies of Gog and Magog. We've looked at the massive scale of human history and its sudden collapses. But tonight, we are transitioning from the colossal to the microscopic. We are moving from the ruins of the past to a living, breathing miracle that exists in your backyard right now. You're watching the Proof Vault, where science and history meet knowledge. Tonight, we open the case of the bee and the honey, nature's code of healing. Subscribe, because this episode might just change the way you see bees. In the heart of every hive lies one of nature's greatest engineering feats, the hexagon. Tiny bees, weighing barely a gram, construct walls and cells with a precision that even modern architects struggle to replicate. Every hexagon is perfectly uniform, aligned to maximize storage space and structural strength while using the absolute minimum amount of wax. Think of it like ultra-efficient packing in a high-tech warehouse. But here it's all done instinctively. There are no blueprints, no supervisors, and no computers. This isn't just nature, it's hardware optimization. In fact, NASA studied this exact geometry for spacecraft design, inspired by how these tiny creatures solved complex load-bearing problems we still grapple with in aerospace engineering. Every angle and every wall is optimized for the flow of honey, the stability of the colony, and the preservation of energy. But the genius of the hive goes beyond the architecture. It's a climate-controlled fortress. Bees maintain the internal temperature of the hive within a single degree, roughly 35 degrees, regardless of whether a desert sun is scorching the earth outside or a freezing storm is raging. Worker bees act as a living thermostat. They generate heat by vibrating their flight muscles, or cool the hive by fanning their wings in perfect synchronization to create ventilation. This mastery of microclimates is what we call precision engineering. Modern data centers and high-tech greenhouses use complex sensors and AI to replicate what these bees accomplish with mere milligrams of neural tissue. This brings us to the Proof Vault twist. How does a brain the size of a sesame seed calculate thermal dynamics and geometric load-bearing? How does a collective of thousands operate as a single, decentralized supercomputer without a single error in the code? The structure is perfect. The climate is stable. But as we're about to see, the software running this machine is even more inexplicable. If the hive is the hardware, the bee itself is a marvel of aerospace software. A honeybee's wings beat roughly 200 times per second. In a dense swarm of thousands, collisions are virtually non-existent. They move with a fluid, networked precision. That makes our most advanced drone swarms look clumsy. But it's not just how they fly, it's how they find their way. Bees travel miles away from their hive, over shifting terrain and through dense forests, only to return home without missing a single turn. They don't have Google Maps. Instead, they use a sun compass. Even on overcast days when the sun is completely hidden, bees can detect the polarization of light to calculate their exact position. But here is the scientific layer that sounds like science fiction: magnetoreception. Bees have tiny particles of magnetite in their abdomens, allowing them to literally feel the Earth's magnetic field. They are living, flying compasses, navigating a global grid with a level of accuracy that GPS would envy. But perhaps the most shocking piece of evidence for their computational power isn't their navigation, it's their memory. Studies have proven that bees can recognize and remember individual human faces. This is a massive task for any computer. It requires mapping key features, the distance between eyes, the shape of a nose, the curve of a jaw, and storing that data for future decision-making. Think about the implications. A brain smaller than a sesame seed, containing mere milligrams of neural tissue, is performing complex pattern recognition and vector calculus in real time. In our world, facial recognition software requires massive servers and millions of lines of code. The bee does it effortlessly while hovering in a crosswind. We often think of intelligence as a byproduct of size. The bee proves that intelligence is actually about efficiency and design. It's not just movement, it's a calculated, data-driven existence. But this leads us to a glitch in history. If this is a world of elite pilots and engineers, who is actually running the mission? In the world of forensics, we look for anomalies, information that appears where it shouldn't. And in the history of entomology, we have a massive one. For over 2,000 years, the greatest minds in the West, including Aristotle, believed the beehive was a monarchy ruled by a king bee. They assumed the soldiers and workers were males. It made sense to them. In the 7th century, the idea of a female-driven workforce performing complex engineering and navigation was culturally unthinkable. But here is where the linguistic smoking gun appears. In chapter 16 of the Qarun, the text issues specific commands to the bee: build your homes, eat from all fruits, and follow the paths of your Lord. In English, verbs are gender neutral, but in Arabic, verbs are gender-coded. The text uses itakiti, kuli, and fasluki. These aren't just commands, they are feminine-specific verbs. The text addresses the worker bee as a she at a time when the entire world was convinced it was a he. This is where the research of experts like McKay Orton becomes vital. Orton, a seasoned entomologist at Cornell University, studies the intricate roles of the hive's workforce up close. Her research validates a striking biological reality. The hive is almost exclusively a female society. The builders, the nurses, the guards, and the scouts, the very pilots we just discussed, are all female. McKay Orton's work highlights how these females perform complex tasks with a precision that defies decentralized control. The males, or drones, have only one role: mating. They don't build, they don't forage, and they don't navigate the paths. So, here is the forensic question for the skeptics. How could a 7th century text, written 1,000 years before, the invention of the microscope, and the discovery of hive gender dynamics, accurately identify the female as the sole engineer and navigator? How did it correctly address the pilot when every biologist of the era was looking for a king? In our modern world, we take high-speed fiber optics and global servers for granted. But inside the hive, there is a communication web that moves faster than most human systems without a single wire. This is what we call a decentralized network. As we saw earlier, there is no CEO or manager giving orders. The queen doesn't direct traffic. She is simply the biological engine of the colony. Instead, as the hive's needs shift, the roles of the thousands of bees shift dynamically. It's a self-organized system that humans are currently studying to perfect swarm robotics and autonomous AI. But how is the data shared? When a scout bee finds a rich resource, she returns to the dark of the hive and performs what is known as the Waggle dance. To the untrained eye, it looks like random movement, but through the lens of modern entomology, it is revealed as nature's original geospatial data packet. Experts like McKay Orton have documented how this dance encodes precise coordinates. The angle of the bee's body relative to the sun tells the hive the exact direction to fly. The duration of the shimmy or waggle tells them the exact distance. It's a literal upload to the hive's server. Within seconds, a single discovery becomes a hive-wide alert. This is a living network. No devices, no lag, no error. Just instinct turned into a complex language of data. Imagine a city where every citizen instantly knows the best routes, the most efficient markets, and the current needs of the community, and acts in perfect coordination without being told. This is the living internet that has been humming silently for millions of years. It's proof that intelligence doesn't always need a massive, centralized brain. Sometimes it's collective. If this level of networked intelligence seems intentional, wait until we look at the product this network creates, a substance that is chemically designed to resist the flow of time itself. We've seen the hardware and the software, but now we must look at the product. Honey isn't just a sweetener. It is a miracle of biochemistry. Archaeologists have tasted honey from Egyptian tombs over 3,000 years old, and it was still golden, still edible. In a world where everything rots, honey is virtually immortal. How? Because it isn't just gathered, it is engineered. This brings us to one of the most specific forensic details in the ancient text. In chapter 16, the Qarun says, "From their bellies comes a drink of varying colors." Note the word butun, the Arabic plural for bellies. For centuries, people assumed bees simply ate nectar and spit it out. But modern biology reveals a sophisticated internal layout. A bee has a regular digestive stomach, but it also possesses a specialized honey stomach, or crop. A one-way valve, called the proventriculus, ensures that the bee's digestive juices and waste never mix with the nectar. It is a literal biochemical filter. Inside this separate belly, the bee adds a specific enzyme, glucose oxidase. When honey is eventually applied to a wound, this enzyme reacts with the body's moisture to create a slow-release hydrogen peroxide. It is an antiseptic biopolymer. It's dry enough to kill bacteria through osmosis and acidic enough to prevent any fungal growth. It is a medicine created in a microscopic laboratory. Every single teaspoon of this immortal substance is the culmination of relentless labor, the life's work of roughly 12 bees. To produce that 1 teaspoon, those 12 workers must collectively fly over 55,000 miles and visit millions of flowers. Every drop is a measure of precision, cooperation, and a biological code that resists the very laws of decay. For something so small to produce a product that outlasts centuries is a miracle of engineering. But it leaves us with one final, haunting question. The evidence is now on the table. We have seen geometric perfection in the Hexagon that challenges NASA's best engineers. We have witnessed a decentralized AI network that operates more efficiently than our modern internet. We've discovered a brain the size of a seed, capable of facial recognition and quantum navigation. But the most staggering piece of evidence isn't just the biology of the bee, it's the timing of the information. A text appeared in the desert 1,400 years ago that used feminine-coded labor commands when the world's leading scientists were looking for a king. It described multiple internal bellies and a chemical healing for mankind, long before the invention of the microscope or the discovery of biochemistry. These aren't just poetic observations. These are technical specifications. The bee remains a living puzzle, a mirror reflecting nature's intelligence, human curiosity, and a hint of something far more extraordinary. It suggests that there is a hidden code in the natural world that we are only just beginning to decode. And so we are left with the ultimate forensic question. How did a text written 1400 years ago know what modern science has just now discovered? You're watching The Proof Vault, where science and history meet knowledge. Subscribe, because the next episode might just change the way you see science.